name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, Vanch. I think I'm right in saying, right? Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Just. It's 11:15, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
By the way, one
yeah.
thing. Which one of these friend of the show introductions is your guys' favorite?
My favorite?
Uh-huh.
As in the way they deliver it, or just in terms of...
Whatever you want. I mean,
of course, there's Jasmine and Lloyd, probably top of the tree. If I had to pick one of the two, I'll go for Jasmine. Lloyd looks like he's sort of a very wooden actor who's not going to do very well at any Oscars anytime soon. He's almost like I've almost got a gun to his head. You know, it's like one of those people that gets caught during a conflict and then gets locked up and gets told to go on national television and tell everyone how he's not being mistreated. That's how he comes across. And for those of you who are probably 35, 40 years or older, people will remember. Some people, Saddam Hussein did that too. Saddam Hussein, now that's a guy who's never been on Talking Tennis before. He basically made these British, I think they were, Royal Air Force people basically say how much of a good time they were having in Iraq. Anyway, Saddam Hussein, tick. Vanch Famani, morning, tick. Damien Kust, good evening. Portuguese tennis prospects aside, Damien, what have you made of the day's action in Asia anyway?
I'll just say that my favorite is Sasha Vickery's. I don't know. There's something cool about the way she just introduces it, like, you know, hey guys, and she's kind of just very chill. Whereas some of the other people are just so focused on the line, you know, and on getting it perfect. And she's just very, you know, at ease with this. And I don't know, every time I see that introduction, I kind of, like smile.
Let me tell you something about Zainab Sonmez, because she's probably the most sort of, not wooden, because I think Lloyd is quite wooden as well, but she's I tell you what's happening. She's about to miss a bus. I can tell you there's like a mini bus at Werash waiting to pick up the Turkish team. Okay. And I think they had a fairly mixed day in the Billie Jean King Cup, some wins, some losses. Zainab had won her match, hence we were doing an interview. But Zainab was holding up the bus, basically, to do that. Not only that interview, but also because she sort of says, okay, thank you very much. And she basically puts the mic down and runs off like a gazelle. Yeah.
That could have contributed, yeah.
Yeah, so that contributed certainly to the way she came across there. Vanch, I guess we got to ask you, do you have a particular favorite in all of those deliveries?
Well, I'll tell you what, I like the reaction that Jasmine has, you know.
Oh, I love it.
You know, when you tell her you got it on the first take, but it gets cut off at the end, you know. So I wish that was...
Does. I think it cuts me off saying take, right? But you can hear I'm about to say, wow, you got it on the first take.
Yeah. It cuts you off mid-word, but you can see one take. One tape, but you know what it is. I mean, you don't say one tape. In fact, I think yesterday I was gonna make a joke about that, and I was thinking like, what else could John be saying instead of one take? And I was gonna say some ridiculous word that starts like I don't know, tapestry or whatever.
Taser, yeah. Tapestry. The A is too short. I think that's
Tater Fritz.
Yeah, Taylor Fritz. By the way, do let us know in the live chat which of those intros you prefer. Yeah, Ghosty talking about my Saddam Hussein reference, and also Martina Trevisan. That's also been ticked off Ghosty's bingo card in terms of live chat comments. But yeah, do let us know in the live chat who your particular favorite is. And will we see Nurlan today? He's all 50-50. What are we thinking, Damien? We're gonna see Nurlan in the chat?
Yeah, he'll tune in. He'll like ask some ridiculous question, then leave, and probably never even hear the answer. But I mean, yeah, you asked me about the Asian swing. This was a very long day, that's for sure. I mean, I think it was 4 a.m. when they started playing for me, and then Ruud and Thompson just kept going. If it was a free setter, it would have been like pretty much ending about right now. So, well, I mean, it should be pretty crazy in Tokyo. Beijing actually kind of less exciting. I have to say, I was barely watching that event today. Tokyo so far has kind of stolen my attention, and I think it's going to be like that for most of the week. As we said on the shows with Mario, and I think yesterday as well, like Beijing is pretty much strictly Alcaraz Sinner, whereas Tokyo just has a very even draw with lots of exciting players. So I think that's kind of where my attention is going to be for the most part, and that's definitely how it was for me today.
Vanch?
Yeah, for me, before these two tournaments started, I kind of thought like Sinner and Alcaraz are headlining Beijing, but apart from that, and maybe like a Medvedev resurgence or something, like it does feel like Tokyo is where all the main action is at. But it was kind of interesting that like most of the seeds who played Laver Cup, they all lost today. So something to say about
Yes, I
that.
did want to mention that actually. Yeah, the Laver Cup and the travel involved. I think I saw Jose Morgado, I should say Jose in he's Portuguese. I did see him tweet something about couldn't they have planned this better? But it had to be in Europe, and so that's the first thing. Secondly, what you could make it like a little bit further east, but maybe Warsaw perhaps, and then but you're only going to take an hour off the flight, if that. I would have thought actually Warsaw to Berlin, you probably less
You
than an
wouldn't
hour
have,
flight.
yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I find this whole storyline, I feel like people are just kind of like pushing for it, ever since like the first player this week who was at Laver Cup was playing his match. People just started making these tweets and getting ready for that summary of like who lost and who prevailed. And of course, in the end, I mean, barely anyone won. But I don't know. It's just not a story that I think is worth.
No, it's
anything,
probably
really.
best to hone in on each match really, and sort of try and see how.
I think so, yeah, because people are already forcing this upon us, I think.
Yeah, Vanch forcing his narratives on us already.
It's like it's not quite as ridiculous as the Netflix one. Remember that? It's like
Netflix was worse. Yes.
Yeah, Netflix was worse because that is 100% fictional, and there can be no scientific reason. Whereas here we could at least try and draw something. But we'll see if Alcaraz goes on to win Beijing. Anyway, that would probably put it to bed. Okay, I didn't know until about 1 minute ago that Casper Ruud lost in straight sets to Jordan Thompson, and ever since the French Open, which round did he get to at the French Open this year? Did he get to like quarters?
He got to the semis, right?
Semis. Lost to
from Novak in the quarters.
Yeah, right, of course. I don't recall him doing really very much since. We all know about his grass court season and how short that tends to be. And I think he went out first round at Wimbledon, didn't he? Or was it second?
Second.
Yeah, second.
The ultimate grass specialist didn't beat him, but Fabio Fognini, the 45-year-old from Italy, did.
Fognini's quite good on grass, I think.
I mean, statistically, it's by far his weakest surface. I don't think he's horrible, though. No.
Yeah. Anyway, Casper, what do you think, Vanch, right now? I mean, yes, we know that his year is largely about the clay court season, and we certainly know it's not about the grass court season, but he's somebody who should be doing better, or maybe I'm doing Jordan Thompson a disservice, by the way.
Yeah, I do think like some of his momentum was snapped. I mean, I thought he would get a medal at the Olympics, but then he ends up losing to Felix in that quarterfinal match.
I think he was struggling physically in the third set.
Yeah, and he's been kind of not right physically, like since kind of like something's been bothering him. He had the illness at Roland Garros, and I don't think he's quite like recovered the same way. But also, I just think sometimes he just runs into problematic matchups, like on a faster court. Like I think Thompson might be one of those examples also, because Thompson is having a really good season. He has like a bunch of top 10 wins this year. I think this was his 5th this year, and also he's like just coming in at all costs, like attacking the backhand, like just kind of opening up space. He's like very, very, very sort of crafty. And if Ruud is a little bit off or like dropping balls short and having to defend, then it's kind of over for him.
Yeah, Brazy's, by the way, keen to hear Damien's thoughts on Brandon Nakashima. Pretty sure that Brandon will come up at some point, and for sure we'll squeeze something out of Damien on that topic. We'll get plenty out of Vanch, I'm sure. But before we get ahead of ourselves, any thoughts on Casper Jordan, Damien? Casper Jordan sounds like it's someone's name, doesn't it? Casper
Yeah.
Jordan.
Yesterday,
Lining
someone
up
was
the
asking you about
Chicago
Jordan
Bulls.
Peterson, and for a moment there, I was scared you were going to say Jordan Peterson instead of Jordan Thompson. But yeah, by the way, to Matthew's question about Ruud, the place for Turin under threat. I mean, it's not guaranteed, but he's still in a very good position despite the loss today. But yeah, of course, as Vanch said, I mean, there was that sickness around like Montreal, Cincinnati. He later said that at the US Open, it was also backfiring on him, that simply he didn't have, the same preparation he should have for the US Open. But I think by now it should not be a thing anymore. Like by now that excuse is off the table. I mean, the sickness that he had in August shouldn't really be impacting him by now. I mean, Thompson had already beaten him on hard courts this year.
Yeah.
And that's not really a surprising loss by any means. I think Casper has kind of gotten to a point the last 2 months where he's a bit of a 50-50 against Thompson on a quicker hard court. And well, today that 50-50 went the other way. Of course, Jordan, like his top 10 records the last 2 years have been pretty insane. So yeah, it's just more of a, the way that Thompson has developed his game over the years. And well, for Casper, I mean, still needs. I think if he gets like 200 more points from here, he would be very safe for Turin. So he's still in a very good position.
The Jack Draper alternate train. He needs to get his skates on pretty quickly. He'll probably need a couple of injuries for people ahead of him, but he'll probably also have to win 90% of his matches between now and the end of the season to do that. And the reason I'm mentioning this for those, particularly Vanch anyway, who's probably not aware, a year ago I just posited a randomly crazy name that could be an alternate for the following year, and I just said Jack Draper.
I think you posted. I think you posted as a question, like out of Musetti and Draper, who would be more likely?
Okay, was it? Okay, yeah, it could well have been, yeah. And I just thought that those two would be intriguing ones, but probably it's going to come too soon, and he's going to run out of track. But someone who's, I don't know if you can see the screen I'm sharing right now,
Yes.
Vance and Damien. Number 12 on the list and likely to miss out on Turin, Stefanos Tsitsipas, who also lost today. I mean, this is another low, if you like, for Stefanos. And I think if he was to miss out on on the ATP Tour Finals, that would be an additional low for Stefanos. I mean, I don't know if you've got any thoughts to share on both his loss today, but Stefanos in general. Vanch?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I looked at the draw and I thought, like, okay, like this is a better draw for him than, some other tournaments. And, I thought if he was going to make a run, it would be kind of here. But also, I thought like the humidity and heat really got to him. Like, I think in the third set, he was barely moving, barely serving well. It looked like one point he was going to retire midway through the set, but he ended up just continuing. I'm not sure, like, just physically, he seemed to really quite struggle in those conditions. And like Mickelson was making him play a lot of balls. He was like, obviously the backhand was still an issue for him. But
Stefanos' backhand was an issue? You're kidding me.
Yeah. It's been rough. He too also got to the quarters of the Olympics. Should have won the second set against Djokovic, didn't, and then had a disappointing hard court swing. And then kind of now he's like rushing to try to get something going for Turin. Honestly, like I don't even know about Turin, but like he should manage to somehow stay in the top 12, because I think if he gets to 13, then draws are going to start to get even tougher for him. Potentially having to play like Alcaraz in the fourth round or Sinner in the fourth round, as opposed to like later in tournaments. But honestly, he's like, yeah, like he for the first time he might actually miss Turin this year. I feel like he would need like a really deep run somewhere, like semis of Shanghai, semis of Paris, which he did last year. Like he's capable of doing it, but I just,
he's going to have to listen. I think semis even that might not be enough. I'm just going to have a look at the gap now. But is there a player? This is to both of you, but I'll probably start with Damien. Is there a player who you can think of on the tour or in history, really, recent history, who's had a rubbish backhand but did turn it into I don't want to turn it into I don't think if you got a rubbish backhand at 18, you're not going to have a weapon as a backhand at 28. But is there someone who's managed to sort of tidy things up on that side? It's difficult to think of someone, but maybe I need to go back in history a bit further. I mean, I know
There's a very easy answer, like with 2017 and
Roger.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't rubbish. It wasn't rubbish.
I mean, it wasn't rubbish, but it suddenly got much, much better under the guidance of Ljubicic and, the neo backhand and stuff, the bigger racket as well. Like, it's been done. Also, the some of the issues about Tsitsipas's backhand aren't like strictly backhand per se, right? Like you can kind of be a Berrettini, for example, and neutralize with the slice instead, but he doesn't even have that.
No.
But I mean, on hard courts this year, he's been like a 50-50 more or less. I don't really agree that Monte Carlo was the last good event he had. I think on clay, the entire season, he was literally just, on clay, the entire season, he was just literally as good as every single time we see him playing on the dirt. But after that, hard courts this year is just a big mess. It doesn't seem like he can really win anything right now on hard courts. Like Vanch, I mean, looking at this draw, I was thinking, okay, this is not exactly the type of like the players that he's going to be facing. These aren't the guys that usually beat him. So this is actually a good chance. But today he also had like a heat stroke-ish thing in the third set. Honestly, since the end of the first set, he was already looking pretty tired. So I mean, it's not necessarily like the worst result ever because there were some mitigating circumstances. But if you look at his entire season on hard courts and especially the last few months, of course, he's barely winning. So,
I will come back to you in a second, Vanch, but I just want to say his clay court season, Barcelona was very good. Obviously, gets to the final there, loses to the same player he beat the week before, I think, in Monte Carlo in Casper Ruud. Madrid, though, and the French and Rome. What did he do in Rome? Did he?
Rome, he got to the quarters, lost to Jari. That's probably a match. That's probably the one I would circle. Like he could have won that one. He probably should have actually, but
then he loses to Alcaraz and loses to Djokovic.
No, in Rome, not in Rome, right? In Rome, he would have had to.
I mean, then, as in the next two events. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And then at the French, he loses to Alcaraz, and it's like kind of the same match. But...
Yeah, that's just going to forever play out that way. I would imagine, certainly on that surface, or probably any surface actually. By the way, I've got the question. It's one which gets asked probably every 6 months. But what I do find interesting is that actually it's getting more dramatic, the result. And this poll now, even 18 months ago, this would have been more like a 50-50 or even a 60-40, 70-30 in the likelihood of him winning it. But now that seems a bit harsh, 88-12 basically, or 89.
I don't think it does at all. Like at this point, there's no sense in asking this question even. I remember, we were talking about this, like, I don't know, 2023 Australian Open, he made the final, and we were talking about this like half a year later. And when someone said no, like very clearly no, it was still a little controversial. Right now, I mean, what is he going to win? He's not going to win Wimbledon. He's not going to win the hardcourt slams. Roland Garros, the opponents are a little too strong. I mean, if he has Alcaraz in some of the latter rounds there, I think he has a much better shot at beating Alcaraz on like a faster hardcourt somewhere. But then again, there's also Sinner. Like, I don't know. These other guys are just too good. I really don't see a way how you can vote yes in that situation right now, unless you're a fan simply.
Yeah. The reason why I think it still was kind of interesting to me is because of the show we're doing right now. Actually, it just came into my head, but also I want to see how much the scale has changed over the last 18 months. And this poll is reflecting that. By the way, for those of you watching, or even either of you two, if you're desperate for a fix of, I haven't seen a terrible, horrible drop shot on match point in quite a while, check out Martinez's drop shot against Lehecka on match point. He's match point down, by the way. And it's pretty horrid. So do check out that. But don't do so now. Stay tuned as we continue looking back. Did you want to say anything on the Tsitsipas talk, by the way, Vanch?
No, I mean, I think the question is like, if you did a poll, like, does he believe that he can win a slam? Like, probably even that would be like less than 50 at this point. I think that's an even bigger thing. Like, he doesn't seem to really believe that he can do it anymore. I mean, I hear the way he like talks about Carlos and Yannick and some of these other players, and it's kind of like, that's not the guy that came out on the scene like 2019 to 2021 when you really felt like he had that internal belief that he could like actually do really big things and win majors. But I think all of that is just gone now.
I think I put it basically to both players, to Stefanos and to Carlos, and I said between Barcelona 2022, where they had an incredible battle that ended up going Carlos's way, to Barcelona 2023 when they played each other in the final and was just one-way traffic pretty much. I put it to both of them in the Barcelona press conference of 2023, and Carlos came out with some interesting stuff about how he's a lot more focused these days, blah, blah, blah. We do know that can be an issue still for him today, but that's what he said that day. But the response that I got from Stefanos was probably even starker, because Stefanos basically just, because I was like, I put it in a better way than this, but you were super close last year, but you were nowhere today in terms of the gap. Don't worry, I didn't frame it in that way, but he just went off on a tangent about football and 11 players, and it was just like, okay, that's just, he just didn't want to answer the question, and that's okay. But it was quite telling, because I think he didn't have any answers. Didn't have any answers for Carlos, and he probably doesn't know, and that's really difficult, right? He just doesn't know the answers to the questions that are being posed by Carlos and now by Yannick as well. Okay, let's move on. But Mikkelsen, hey, I love Matt Alex. Vanch?
Yeah, Mikkelsen is kind of under the radar sometimes, when you talk about players like born, like 2004 onwards. I feel like, you always hear like Fonseca, Menchik, like Leonard Tien now, because he's like barely ever losing. But also Mikkelsen is like, Mikkelsen is one of those like really, really crafty type players. I like, for instance, even when he plays the top players now, I kind of feel like, like you have to play pretty well to beat this guy now. So yeah.
Arthur Feast stuns Taylor Fritz. Not a big surprise, but probably going into the match, it was probably a 60-40 in Taylor's favor, Damien.
Yeah, odds would have been a lot more in Taylor's favor, but yeah, I mean, you can never write off Fields with the sort of potential that he has. Honestly, I mean, I don't really know what Fritz could have done better on the day. Like, this is just one of these matches where he runs into a more talented player who plays well on the day. Not much to do there. I mean, he also had some physical issue with the lower back area, but the way he was losing like every backhand rally with Fields, that's kind of when he can't win in this matchup, because usually that's supposed to be his strength over Arthur, and today it was not. So yeah, it's still a pretty big story, I think, Gene. I mean, it's not quite like that, because Fields is just so erratic and you never know what you're going to get from him. After Hamburg, he played a few like pretty ridiculous matches. Davis Cup, he pretty much loses it for France. Like he pretty much was the guy who decided that France was not going to make it, because he lost to Kokinakis and Bautista Agut. Bautista Agut especially from 6-5 free up. But yeah, I mean, he can turn it on any moment. Hopefully at some point it's going to be more regular than this.
Just some interesting stuff in the chat here. Gene is obviously a big fan of Feast, I guess. Vanch, were you surprised at all, or maybe we're underestimating Feast a bit?
I think mildly, just because of Feast's form coming in since Hamburg. Like Davian was saying, he's played some pretty bad matches, but I would say yeah, like every time Feast is able to get his forehand into play, like it's so heavy, and if he's able to stay backhand to backhand with some of these top players now, like it does open up a lot of space for him to like do damage. And like that was the case when he played Hurkacz at Wimbledon as well. I was like, okay, like backhand is holding up pretty nicely. And then when he gets the forehand into play and he's got the the heavy serve, he's like just such a muscular type player. So like Fritz was just kind of overwhelmed at that, and wasn't really like able to hurt Feast when Feast was firing on all cylinders. But I guess also Taylor, like it's not the worst result in the world. Like I think he's probably going to qualify for the ATP finals at this point, I would think. So yeah, like not a huge deal for him, but yeah, we'll see if like Feast can be more consistent. And he plays Berrettini next.
Yeah, Fritz is 5 in the race, albeit it's quite close between the sort of 5 to 10 range. But by the
Yeah,
way,
5-6 mostly, right? I mean, Fritz kind of like Ruud, like he's almost safe for Turin, right?
I'm surprised that I didn't realize that Ruud was as safe as he is. I'm just looking at the point situation now, and I, as I say, really, I don't remember Ruud pulling up any trees in the last few months, and yet there he sits as the 6th best player this year in terms of
Totally
points
get that.
gathered.
I mean, honestly, I was surprised he's that close as well. Like, I'm not surprised he's above Rublev, maybe, but I don't know, just almost 4K points. But I guess, first half of the year, he was like winning matches left and right. So it makes
Yeah.
sense. When it comes to the height, I don't think he's like much. He's probably around the GOAT height, right? I mean, Dave was asking this question. I mean, I don't think he's below it. I don't think he's like Kazov Wawrinka-ish height.
What's the GOAT
Probably.
range? Height
Yeah.
range? What's that? What is that?
Probably whatever Federer, Djokovic, Nadal were listed
Like
at, which is
6'1" or
6'1",
6'2".
6'2".
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think Fils is actually like right in that. I don't think height is ever really an issue for him. And yeah, as Vansh said, like when he's able to hold up on the backhand side against these players, then he usually wins. Like literally against Fritz today, this should be the biggest asset for Taylor. His strength going into Arthur's weakness, and it was not, and it allowed him to set up all these, inside in forehands, get to it first. Also, and yeah, Hurkacz at Wimbledon, great example. As in the first 2 sets, I think I remember I did the watch along for that one, and I think I remember saying that the first 2 sets was the best I've ever seen him hit the backhand. So yeah.
By the way, the live chat we've got today is very entertaining at times, but perhaps we need to look at the comments under the Tennis Channel's post here because Tennis Channel says, Fritz loses to Arthur Fritz, or Arthur Fils upsets Taylor Fritz. Of course, you're going to get some responses to the upset, etc., etc. First one from Mohammed says, Fritz sucks, being honest. Deborah Eden decides to just go yes and clap her hands. Somebody else says, oh, wow. And then finally, we've got Flawless something says, it's not an upset. Everyone knows Fritz is terrible. So there we go.
The most recent Grand Slam runner-up is absolutely horrible, yes.
Yeah. Social media for you. Maybe Flawless had a bet on that. Who knows? Okay, back to some scores today. Maybe certainly a result that probably went under many people's radar would be Tommy Paul beating Matteo Arnaldi in straight sets. Anything to say on that one, Vanch? Oh, John Blom was the umpire. Nice. Oh, he's had a busy day. He was an umpire.
You're such a big fan of John Blom.
Yeah, because he was the umpire for one of the greatest tennis matches of all time. So.
Oh Jesus.
No, I mean Matteo and Tommy. I mean, I think I probably would have expected a little tighter than 6-3, 6-2. But Tommy just like has a little bit of a higher floor. I think like Matteo is such a good defender, and he's so good at covering the court. But I don't feel like he always uses his strengths in the best way yet. So he could get a little bit more, less. He doesn't need to, be that attacking and that daring a lot of the times when he's that good at defending. So that would probably be my critique for him, because honestly, like I'm looking at him and Kabuli, and I think Kabuli is on a better trajectory right now the last few weeks. I think they're pretty like similar type of players. I actually like Kabuli's forehand a little bit better, but it'll be interesting to see, because like Arnaldi did get to the semis of Canada and he looked quite good there. But I think Tommy just that's a match I would have expected him to win, but maybe not that decisively.
It does feel like, with the exception of Sinner and Alcaraz, and to some extent Djokovic, it's just a big random fight out there right now between four. Maybe Zverev can enter the sort of zone as well, but the rest just seem to all be able to beat each other on any given day. Look at like Mickelson beating Tsitsipas there. Fritz losing to Taylor Fritz losing to Arthur Fils today. Talking of which, by the way, I want to come back to Fils, because I want to compare him to Holger Rune, Damien, and I want to say who are we bigger on in terms of potential in the sport right now?
You're asking tough questions.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
here
mean,
for.
obviously, Holger was
I'm
like
here.
a front
I'm here because
runner
I'm
for
in a
such
shootout with.
a long time.
I'm in a shootout with Vanch. Vanch doesn't even know about this shootout. But I asked Damien. Damien did the last few minutes on the. I don't actually. Damien, how long did you go for last night? Another 10 or 15 minutes, or?
The entire stream lasted like 55. I think you left at
I think
about
I left at 30.
25, maybe.
Oh wow! Okay, so you did a good half an hour. Because I know I was with you in the live chat for about 15 minutes, but that was about it. I put in a question, Vanch, in the live chat to. It was almost like I was trying to find my inner Nerland with that question by saying to Damien, I said, Damien, who do you prefer? I think did I frame it as who do you prefer working with?
Something like that, yeah.
I said, who do you prefer working with, me or I said John, because I'm writing as talking terms. Who do you prefer working with, Damien, John or Vanch? And he gave a very diplomatic, very un-Damien-like response, actually. He
That's
said,
actually
well,
true. I mean, I gave the sort of I told which sort of like I said which shows I think are better with Vanch and which shows are better with you. So I mean,
exactly.
I don't think it was diplomatic, you know. I don't want to pick favorites, you know. It's like
Well,
yeah,
I'm asking you
choosing
this
between
question.
my kids or whatever. So
I'm trying to get ahead of Vanch in the race to somewhere, to San Diego. No, he's going to get. But yeah, so Rune.
I don't know. I feel like the hype about Fields is kind of also jumping up and down, and we're basically just waiting to see this sort of tennis on any given day, and also for his like tennis IQ and everything kind of rise. And Holger is in a very dark place today. Like today, he was just battling some demons and barely survived it. I think Tabila was just kind of on the court there, whereas Holger was involved in a very different encounter at the same time.
That's funny.
I really don't know. I'm super high. I mean, I used to be super high on Rune. I guess my Fields excitement has never really gone down all that much. But then again, there were some matches like against Fonseca in Rio where he gets a little out talented. I don't know. Things happen along the way. Development will still take place. But yeah, I don't know what to tell you right now. And it's a bit of a shocker because a year ago, everyone would have been like, oh, yeah, of course, Rune.
Yeah, I mean, this time, just actually a little bit less than a year ago, November of last year, Craig O'Shaughnessy said to me that Rune is just on the edge of something very, very special. He made Federer comparisons, and here we are 9 months later, and we're not quite sure where we're at. Have you got an answer on the Feast Rune conundrum, Vanch?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know a year ago we would have said Rune easily.
Yeah,
but I still watch Rune play, okay, and I'm amazed like what he can pull off when it's so good, So I just can't like let go of the fact that he will like figure this out at some point because there's just too much there. Like there's just too much as a whole package.
Yeah.
Like with the touch, with the speed, with like the explosiveness, like with just how easy he can make the game look sometimes. Yeah. And so it just makes me like feel like like he's gonna figure it out at some point. And like he almost was like a net court away from getting to the Cincinnati final, and then I think that would have been a more exciting final. I don't think he would have won it, but like I will keep looking for like that one moment that'll just spur it on for him again. And it just he kind of just like has one really good moment, and then he goes like 3 steps back again, and it's kind of like, but you kind of feel like if he gets some more stability, he gets something going, like it is possible. Whereas Feast, I think, is still a little bit more up and down. Like I think long term, I'll still take Holger.
Okay.
But
I'm worried about the technical side of things, like the Holger forehand and how often it breaks down under pressure, how he has that long tie back and everything. I don't know. It's worrying me because Arthur doesn't really have any issues like this. I mean, of course, he has a pretty extreme forehand grip himself, and like, sure, he hasn't done well in the past on like faster courts, but I mean, that's clearly not, becoming less and less of a thing.
By the way,
I don't know.
Nishikori's playing doubles as well. Just thinking back to our Nishikori.
Well, not anymore, but yeah, he played one match.
Okay. Just was that on air or off air? We were talking about Nishikori and his durability. I think it was off air, wasn't it, Damien?
It was off air, yes.
Okay. So we'll have to reprise that, I guess, very, very soon. By the way, if we've been getting to know Vanch over the last 2 years on Talking Tennis, and of course via social media, I think now we know Vanch. Looking at some of the comments in the live chat about Nakashima and Nori, and Vanch preferences for those two players in particular, and Ghosty suggesting that ultimately he's a Noi man. But anyway, let's get to Nakashima and his straight sets win over Francis Tiafoe. Vanch, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, look, Brandon last week, I
I thought you were going to say Brandon Baby.
Yeah, that was this thing that we do in the group chat, right? Every time he beats a top 20 player, I say Brandon.
Well, we don't do it.
We do,
Yeah. There's something we
But
all
it's
do
sort
in
of
the
like a
Yoga
thing, right?
show.
Use of the word we.
Yesterday, Damien was like, "Say it," you were like, it was like the
He was
last
goading
game, and you
you.
knew it was coming. So
I knew it was coming when Brandon was serving for the match, and I was also waiting to
Yeah.
send out that tweet with McDonald's. So I was also about to say
I
something,
know.
and I got a bit excited, yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, honestly, it was a good spot for him as well with Francis. I think it was a little uninspired, to be honest. But Brandon, like, these wins that he's getting, like, are not one-offs. Like, I think this year, I mean, 7 top 20 wins. He's played like so many matches. He's kind of inside, like, comfortably now inside the top 40. Hopefully, he'll be seated for the Australian Open. He's been playing well for a while now. Like, definitely since Wimbledon had been some of the best tennis I've seen him play overall. I mean, 2022 he had some great moments as well. Wimbledon, US Open, few other moments here, but I kind of feel like he's playing his very best tennis now. And with this draw, he plays Ugo Humbert next, and that'll be
Sorry,
quite
who does he play
interesting.
next?
He plays
Humbert.
Humbert next, so another top 20 player. But they had a really good battle at Wimbledon. It was a really tight 4-set match. I think the first set could have gone either way in that one. Fourth set as well. So honestly, I wasn't too surprised when he beat Tiafoe today. He hadn't beaten Francis before this, but I felt like things were the combination was just right for him to do it. Like, he's serving so well. Like, he's top 8 now in hold percentage this year. Like, he used to be top 10 in hold percentage, I think 2022, but now I feel like he's cleaned up the forehand a bit more. Like, he's just more reliable. Still not going to be the quickest guy around the court, but he's defending a bit better than he used to. He has more options, I feel like, in his game now. So that's making him more of a it's raised his floor a bit. I think since the disappointments of last year, he's coming on a lot stronger. Like, I feel like his coaching situation is more stable now with David Sanguinetti as well, who's pretty experienced. So on the tour as well. So I think I'm liking where it's going with Brandon right now.
Damien, talk for 1 minute while I go and get myself a hot drink about Brandon and Tiafoe.
My internet has started breaking down. But anyway, Brandon, of course, has kind of got into a point where he's like 7-7 against top 20 players this year, which is pretty awesome. I still think it's a bit of a high floor, low ceiling game. Like, I don't really know how he takes that to the next level. Like, he's very often just about serving well, putting the balls deep into play, deep into the middle, not really like opening up the court for himself all that much. But it's still progress, and it's definitely a great comeback story from 2023, right? I mean, just the fact that he was able to play that whole long stretch of challengers from October to February. Some were even saying that this probably will be like a bit too long. Like, why is he not already trying ATP Tour qualifying or something like that? And I mean, it just worked like a charm. And where he is right now, if he's seeded for Australia, that's probably kind of where he belongs as a player right now, like in that 25-32 seeding range. I don't know how sort of like directly he can make the next step going forwards. But of course, I mean, beating Tiafoe, Humbert is very much in his range. Probably a better player if he has his day, if his weapons are firing, but that's nowhere near a guarantee with Ugo Humbert. So it's all open now. And I think it would be also the first quarterfinal above 250s for Brandon. So that would be a pretty big step as well.
Yeah, that's right. He has 2 round of 16s and 1000s this year, but no quarters yet. So
Barcelona round of 16 as well, I think, but no quarters.
Okay, I see that Shelton got a little bit of a scare as well, as that's the operative word it seems today, with Riley Opelka, but then I did just see some of the highlights on that match, and from the beginning of the second set onwards, it was fairly comfortable for Ben. Riley as well. Once the rallies were getting going, it was like, okay, this is going to be tricky now for Riley to win this point. At least from the highlights that I saw. I will get both of your thoughts in a second, but I'm going to pick up the pace a bit. Draper beating Bellucci in straight sets. Mahatch, by the way, I don't know if that maybe ranks as the match of the day, at least in terms of the scoreline, just looking at how close that was. And then Nishikori, which will also be in a battle for the match of the day as well, with an incredible 3-set win over Marin Cilic that Damien and I were talking about off air. Vanch, is there any of these 4 matches that you'd like us to hear your words of wisdom on?
Well, I mean, Nishikori and Cilic, that was what, their 16th match they played, like first since 2018 US Open. Obviously, Cilic won their biggest one in the US Open final 10 years ago, but like, yeah, this was like such a cool story with Marin winning the title last week, and then Nishikori, like his home place where he's won Tokyo before, and like, yeah, like I mean, this was exciting. Like maybe it wasn't like the most highest quality match, but like given where both these players are in their careers right now, like I still think probably Cilic will have the higher highs going forward in his career. Like I was very impressed with him last week. But Nishikori as well, like I just hope he can hold up physically, because I feel like that's the main thing, Like I've seen jokes on Twitter that like he's just made of glass, at this point. Because yeah, it just feels so on and off. But like when he gets something going and he comes back, it actually doesn't take him that long. I mean, we saw what he did in Toronto, but also like challengers, like he won a challenger literally last year as well. Like it doesn't take him that long to find it. So he just needs to like stay healthy, because I still feel like there's a top 50 player in there at some point, if he can still stay healthy, like maybe for a year or something. Like it's not completely over with these guys. I feel like these are 2 guys that I was thinking like, yeah, maybe they'll retire this year, but now I don't feel like that for either.
Damien?
Yeah, I mean, Kei is more of a problem, I think. Like physically, he's still shot to me today, even like 5-2 in the third. He was almost done, but he just needed that one game and somehow pushed through. I think that Cilic is much closer to his form. I think a lot of his game is like still intact, whereas Nishikori will always have the super smooth ball strike feel, but it's not necessarily that easy for him to stay healthy, and Marin seems like he could. But yeah, of course, today it was Kei who got the win. It's just that, Cilic has already shown us that he can win 5 matches, play 5 good matches in a row. And well, I don't think that Kei is really capable of that. Like that's probably not happening. We can hear some echo.
Sorry.
But yeah, anyway, that's kind of where I stand with that. Obviously, the match today, that was just cool to see. These are 2 legends of the sport. These are 2 like insanely talented players. Or like even if they're gonna be 50, you're gonna watch them play and you'll be like, oh wow, yeah, that's it. Like that's that's something that I used to watch as a kid, and that's something that I enjoy to this day. Like it's just talent that you can't really buy, and or like even you can't even train it. And yeah, today it was Kei who won, but I feel like Marin will have a much better season because he's simply closer to best physical shape next year, unless of course something more happens. And do you think Cilic will win more titles, says Ghosty? I don't know. Maybe he can sneak in another 250. Who knows?
Yeah.
Also, especially for you, Brazy, when it comes to Dan Evans losing to Coleman Wong today, Coleman was playing pretty well in the opener, really like pressuring Dan. But after that, Dan went up 5-2 in the second, and he had an MTO, and he wasn't moving after that. So, well, we'll see how he is physically. Like he literally could not cover his backhand corner anymore that well, and that's like very imperative to his game, especially this week. He was just like slice grinding his way through these matches with Sultanov and Wong. So once he stopped moving, like even though Coleman was 2-5 down, like it seemed very palpable that this comeback is possible. I think it got to a point where Evans was like 2 points away from the set, but I don't think he had where Evans was 2 points away from the set. I don't think he had a set. But yeah, honestly, when he got broken for like 6-5, I was even thinking if he's gonna retire, because it literally like made no sense. And well, that's how his tournament ended. First challenger on hardcourt since 2019. But it's good that he's signed up for it. It shows that he still has at least some fight. And I think
Yeah.
he's also signed up for Hangzhou after Shanghai, or rather in the second week of Shanghai.
Okay, so 34-year-old Dan is hanging on, but yes, we're going to keep an eye on him. And
He'll retire before Nishikori and Cilic. This is my prediction.
really, okay,
unless he goes full on doubles, because that's also possible.
All right, but his singles will come to a close. You think?
I think so. Yeah.
Wow,
What's his ranking situation?
That's bold, Vanch. Okay.
Oh, right.
What's his ranking situation? I mean, he's
Yeah,
like
where is he
200
at?
or something like that.
Okay.
The US
That's
Open
really
helped
tough.
a bit because he defended his points, but yeah.
There was something I was going to say. No, don't know. Dan Evans, anyway. Okay, there is another match or a couple of matches more on the screen here, but I know that there was some comments about Felix in the chat at the beginning. I mean, I guess Felix, we're in a worse situation with Felix than we are with Holger, and we're never quite so optimistic regarding him in comparison to Stefanos. He's kind of in a no man's land on his own of probably now just not going to maybe quite realize the potential that we thought he had 2 or 3 years ago, Vanch? Or am I being too harsh, or am I being was I too optimistic 2 or 3 years ago? I don't know.
Yeah, I think this year he had 1 or 2 like saving grace moments. Obviously the final in Madrid, the Olympics was very good for him. Roland Garros as well, he got to the 4th round. But so like he's had some moments where like you can, apart from just indoors, I feel like he's gonna, impress again in indoor swing. Like maybe he'll win Basel again, like he has the last couple of years. Maybe Davis
Probably
Cup. I feel like he's very good in Davis Cup indoors. So like we kind of know who Felix is by now. I hope he can surprise us a bit more. But like this loss, like I wasn't that surprised. I watched the end of it, and like he had 2 match points, and he just like misses a backhand. He like makes a couple of errors in tie breaks, like just went for too much. So kind of just, yeah, you feel like, on the serve and the +1, and, he can still be quite imposing when he gets on the front foot. But then other times, like when he's in a longer baseline rally, or like when he's having to, hit many backhands in a row, or like when he's like, you question like his toughness in a rally, you feel like the other player just can hang on, once the rally gets to neutral. And then that's where like Felix, he's such a good athlete, but yeah, I mean, sometimes he just doesn't quite, meet that moment in a big situation, and like he'll lose some tight matches like this. Yeah, Nishioka was also cramping at the very end when he was celebrating, and then yeah.
Christopher O'Connell rounds off the day with a straight sets win over Martin Echeverry. But actually, I want to get going because we've already...
One more thing I just want to say on Felix, though.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Ghosty like 40 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago made an interesting comment that like Tsitsipas was Grigor 2.0 and Felix was on his way to becoming Grigor 3.0, but we're not ready for that. Like, we're not ready to call him that. I think we're like way past ready. Like, no one believes in Felix right now. So I think that already happened. And also when it comes to Ghost, your question about FAA being a points vulture, I mean, if you made the final in Madrid, you can't really be called that. But was his final in Madrid legit? It was about as legit as the Jack Draper US Open semifinal run. Every single opponent of his was just like falling apart.
I think it was worse than Draper's.
Dying, It was even worse, of course, because it was retirement and walkovers. At least Jack had to play these 15 sets, And Felix, I mean, he played one horrible match against Nishioka, one very good one against Ruud. I mean, he's just destroying Ruud this year. And then 3 like walkovers, retirements. So I don't think we can call him a vulture if he has 500 points from winning an ATP 500 and also 600 something right now, even this year, from making the final at an ATP 1000. But yeah, I mean, he does not play like a top 20 player most weeks of the year. You guys are right about that, obviously. It's not a Draper shade. It's Draper US Open semifinal run shade, and how.
Yeah. Yeah, although I think there's a bit more justice behind Draper's run than that weird run that Felix had to the final in Madrid, where I think, did he win one match against Casper Ruud and he was in the final? Am I right in saying that?
Nishioka as well for round 1.
Okay.
And that was horrible. He played one good match against Casper, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's flick over then to Beijing, where Yannick Sinner had the fright of his life, Damien, against Nicolas Jarry, or did he?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned to John before we came on air that I was gonna because I didn't know he was gonna be joining us. That we were gonna be doing this, like a threesome. And anyway, I was gonna ask Vansh, like, was it really a scare? Because to me, I don't know if I was ever scared.
Vanch?
No, honestly, no. Like, just never. Like, it was never in doubt, dude. When he lost that first set, you just knew there was only going to be one winner.
Yes, I was gonna do the same, Damien. Yeah, I was gonna do the same. So I think Damien said that Nerland would be in the chat. I don't remember if Vanch made a.
No way.
Wow.
Comment. No
I mean,
comment.
literally, like pedos are better than me.
No,
Thank you,
no.
Nerland.
No
Whoa, whoa,
comment.
whoa.
No comment. We'll move on very quickly from that one. Yes. So okay. So Sinner wins against Jarry, but at least it was entertaining, maybe for an hour or so. Koboli winning in 3 sets, as did Kotov as. Oh, is that? Yeah, Kotov as well against Zhu. I didn't even know that result happened, albeit 7-5 on the 7-6 in the third. And Griekspoor also in 3 sets, so 4 3-set matches there. Vanch, is there any one of those other 3 that you'd like to share some thoughts on either the player or the result?
Not a ton. I mean, I just didn't see a lot of these, to be honest with you. Greek
No,
sport
me neither.
Kecmanovic, honestly, Kecmanovic. Yeah, that's maybe a good win for Talon, considering Kecmanovic beat him at Wimbledon.
Uh-huh.
You know, and now he doesn't have to worry about playing Sinner for like the millionth time. But hey, at least, yeah, Greek sport is somebody that I've sort of been keeping an eye on to do like make a run somewhere, because he had a few of those last year, whereas this year I don't think he's been as consistent and like as sort of reliable. But he's kind of somebody else that, like, yeah, like if a draw opens up, or like a good one or two really good matchups against some top guys, like I feel like he could take that opening, but he just hasn't shown like that much consistency this year. But maybe he will down the stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, Manarino also got his 300th win by beating
Nice.
Sadigo, and he's not had a good year at all since Australian Open.
No. Manarino, by the way, is somebody who appears in this book that I'm in the middle of reading right now, The Racket by Connor Nyland. We'll be having Connor on the show in a couple of weeks. It's always kind of funny when there'll be a couple of times you're reading a page or so, and he's talking about a particular match, but he reveals the opponent at the end. It's like, I came up against this gangly guy with sort of floppy hair, and he was wearing an all-Nike outfit and played like this and played like that, and I beat this teenager in straight sets. And
Hair, Manarino?
No, wait.
Wasn't he always bald?
Came from Switzerland, and I found out his name at the end of the match, or his name was Roger Federer or whatever. And that's kind of what he does a couple of times. He does it with Adrian Manarino as well, but he doesn't obviously mention the hair in the same
No, I know
manner.
that Manarino had hair when he was
He
young.
did, yeah.
I've watched him with hair. But yeah,
But he
from
does look
Beijing,
like-
I mean,
he looks like a guy who never had hair. He does look like that.
yeah, like a Shaolin monk or something like that.
There's people as well with mustaches that you meet, and it's like, I can't ever imagine them without one. Did you had a mustache for a little while, didn't you, Damien?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, maybe pre-Estoril, I think that was this year.
I don't remember, but it was like a couple of times the last couple of years, but just for like a week or so. But yeah, from Beijing, honestly, as I said, I was mostly focused on Tokyo, so I just watched Iju against Pavel Kotov. Once again, very, very close. He just kind of choked it in the end, just like in the Manarino win. But yeah, would love to see him playing like a more regular challenger schedule, because, well, this year he's kind of just like stayed in Asia only. And, well, maybe it's not exactly the way to go, but we can see the raw potential is still there. And as I said yesterday, made that bold prediction, 5th player from China to break the top 100, gonna be Iju.
Cool. Nice. Any results that I haven't mentioned? I'm thinking mainly for the podcast. Yeah, Koboli winning against Bublik in 3 sets, and Lehecka beating Martinez in straights. So just 6 matches in Beijing today. Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, then we can then flick over to also staying in Beijing, but flick over to the WTA side of things. I saw this headline today, which did make me want to read the article, actually. compared to one I saw yesterday. I was keen to know, well, who is this new coaching setup for Coco Gauff? And it's not that old lady in the bottom right-hand corner you can see. That's a commercial. It is somebody called Matt Daly, who I must say I'm not familiar with, to go alongside her long-time coach, Jean-Christophe Forel, although apparently
Miles found a very interesting quote from like some website or something. I don't know if Miles is still here, but he posted it on Twitter. And basically, it said that Matt Daly, who, by the way, I think worked with Chapo in the past or something like that. But anyway, it said that he is an expert on grip changes.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, I remember saying before Mr. Brad Gilbert showed up that like whoever is going to take over Gauff, like just has to come in with, a very clear idea on how to fix her forehand. Obviously, that did not happen. But it seems like right now that's what Coco is going for.
Interesting. Yeah. I feel like Brad's approach was more like, okay, we'll focus on the strengths. I'll scout your next opponents. I'll we'll make sure that you can like get that out of your head. And like his approach was very different. And I feel like it was very good for the short term, but it seemed like the partnership had run its course, and like now she needs somebody who like actually like goes nosedives into the technical part with the forehand and the serve as well. I know they also tried going to Roddick for the serve at some point, I think off season last year. So, but clearly like the serve is still an issue. The forehand still an issue. Matt Daly, I remember. I remember him with Chapo. Like he was with Chapo for a while. So I think even up until last year. But then then Chapo got injured and then wasn't on the team anymore. So interesting, because I was wondering if she would take like the super coach route and like go for a bigger name, like I don't know, Renee Stubbs or something, or if she would just keep it more low key and just just someone more like under the radar like this. So it seems like she took the latter.
She even has some sort of company which is called Grip MD.
Really? Whoa.
Listen,
this is almost like Lance Davis, but I mean, this is in the newest tweet of Miles Davis. So if you, Miles David, so if you want to show it, I think you could. But yeah,
I will do it in a second. But before I do that, I think if it's grip that she's seeking, and it is somebody who's available right now, I think she could do a lot worse than this young lady on the screen right now. If she's looking for a grip expert, who is also now very much available after Tommy Paul dispensed with her services earlier this year. Do you like the way I did that in a sort of a journalistic sort of written way, dispensed with her services? Gene going, oh my, John. Okay, for those of you listening to the podcast, well, that will always remain a mystery who I'm referring to, but they're on the screen right now.
You said Tommy Paul, I think. So.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, so I guess
there's enough clues to figure out. Yeah, there's enough clues.
Grip, etc. Tick. Anything? Okay, let's go back to Beijing. I've got Muchova in the title, so I think we should definitely mention her straight sets win, and a lot of people purring on Twitter over that one, the straight sets win that she had over Blinkova. Vanch.
I think I just saw some highlights. I saw her hit some really good volleys, some really good forehand approaches, like just serve well, like kind of what we saw at the US Open. And then I was interested to see what section of the draw she was in, and then I realized, she could potentially play Sabalenka in the quarters, and that made me a little bit excited because, once I remember their last two matches, and like the form that Muchova's in, like it wouldn't really surprise me if she beats Sabalenka in the quarters, or at least they had a really good battle, and like I just hope we get that match. Krejcikova was also in that section, but who really knows with Krejcikova this year apart from Wimbledon?
So. I've got something else to add to that, which was definitely Sabalenka in terms of the US Open final. There was a preference as to who they wanted to play over Pegula and Muchova, and it wasn't Muchova. So that's not to say that Muchova would have won that. Didn't Muchova beat Sabalenka in maybe Cincinnati or Canada just over a year ago?
Yep, Cincinnati and Roland Garros.
Roland Garros especially, yeah.
Yeah, although I'm thinking because of the hard court, I'm thinking a bit more,
Yeah.
taking a bit more relevance maybe from the Cincinnati result. But yeah, so that is exciting if it happens. And the Sabalenka procession that Nick has basically put her name on the trophy already may be tested by Muchova. I think Nick is already engraving the name Sabalenka into the trophy, by the way.
And you're at number 1 as well. I mean, Nick,
Yeah.
it just... Well, he went very hard with his like Iga Świątek fandom there, I think, and he just basically got super scared.
Yeah, I think he's scared. That's it.
Yeah,
I think he's scared.
I think he is.
And with this sort of, he's hedging his bets in a way, because if it happens, he says, "Well, told you so," and if it doesn't, he'll be like, "Yeah,
That's true. Yeah, it's a win-win situation for Nick. Yeah,
win-win, exactly." Okay, rounding off some of these other results. Oh, there was a comment in the chat. I don't know if she played today, from Nerland. It's for you, Vanch, actually. When I saw I saw Vanch comma, and I thought, oh, here we go. What's the question going to be? But it's okay. It's how do you feel about Aisling Kruger's potential?
I don't know if she has the biggest potential. Like, I don't know if her, ceiling is as high as like Andreeva or Brenda or players like that. But I don't know. It's pretty good. Like, I mean, I she's a pretty good prospect. Like, she hits pretty big. Like, the forehand is pretty offensive. The serve is already a pretty decent weapon. Like, she's already done some pretty cool things. Like, she won a title already. She already has some pretty, like, she beat Osaka in Cincinnati qualies. I didn't even think Osaka played that bad in the third set, and she just kind of beat her. And then she beat Andreeva pretty handily at the US Open. Like, this was another good win today. So honestly, I think, yeah, like, she has top 20 potential for sure. I don't know, like, beyond that, there's a lot of variables, but yeah, especially on a hard court, she looks pretty good.
Yeah, I know Nolan did sort of just preface it or add, sorry, that he means among the American players. That probably means Nerlan is a fan. He's kind of seeking sort of probably something that goes along with his fandom there. So I think he pretty much got it in Vanch's response. Wins also for Savang Q, who I believe I did see in the Thai Open recently, who she pushed somebody to 3 sets in the opening round. Who was
it Shramkova, actually?
Yeah, I think it was Shramkova. Yeah. And I found parts of that match quite entertaining, actually.
There was a player there who pushed Shramkova in the first round. Was it her? But I don't know.
Yeah, it was Shramkova was the match I'm thinking of, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, Y beating Rusa in straight sets, Begu beating Ma in 3, Christian knocking out Bondar in the round of 1-8. Other results including Golubuch's 3-set win over Wong. Podoroska is through. Sorribes Tormo, we have to mention her 3 sets. I think, was it like 4 hours? Yeah, 4 hours and 15 minutes. Was that the longest match since that Aussie Open match you were referring to the other day, Damien?
Yes, that Aussie Open match that I called the best match ever the other day. Yes, exactly. And I have to say, I'm going to be very blunt about this, but like, looking at this slate, it very much like clearly shows us the issues with the 1.5 week 1,000 events, right? I mean, if it wasn't for Sorribes Tormes Gao, like, this would literally be no story type of day. And people complain about this a lot on the ATP as well, which on the ATP, it hurts me less because, well, I like a lot of these, like, top 80-ish players and stuff. That's kind of my interest. So it doesn't really pain me at all. But yeah, I mean, there's not much of a story here other than that one long thriller, which obviously did not need to happen. And these are exactly the sort of the slow days at the start of these 1,000 events that people dislike in the new formatting of events. But yeah, anyway, of course, 4 hours for 15 minutes. Sara Sorribes Tormo is famous for these matches. Just last week, right? We had 4 hours and 9 minutes from Laura Siegemund, another marathon woman, as we also had this one stream where I kept talking about Warsaw with Nick. And I mentioned Laura Siegemund being 6 hours on the court one day. So Sara Sorribes Tormo just decided I have to do better.
looking at that, there's another 3-set match just below it, albeit obviously fewer games, but that was done in less than 2 hours, which gives you a nice comparison. And I don't think Osorio is a particularly aggressive player either. So anyway, she beat Tomljanovic in 3 sets. Clara Towson winning in 3 sets over Harriet Dart. Cocchioretto, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, beat Rodionova in 3 sets. Buchsbaum through in straight sets. Fett against Wong in straight sets. Yeah, I mean, we're sort of racing through this because there's not too many storylines and not a huge amount to get excited about, I guess, Damien.
Yeah, precisely. Like it's I actually have to say that while yesterday I was talking about the WTA quite a lot when we did a similar stream, but today I just basically skipped the entire day in Beijing. There just wasn't that much to watch, to be honest. I mean, of course, Sorribes Tormogao, but like, you wouldn't have guessed pre-match that this was going to be the one that you should be following, right? And even if I wanted to, it would have taken me 4 hours. But yeah, from tomorrow, of course, it's going to be much different. The seeds come into play. It's a massive lineup tomorrow. So tomorrow I can kind of like confirm I will start watching the WTA again.
Let's just have a very quick look towards tomorrow, because we're going to have on the stream, we're going to do a live stream for Artur Fils against Matteo Berrettini. Vanch, have you got any strong thoughts on this particular encounter?
I mean, Berrettini, to me, is...
Watch what you say, Vanch, because regarding Berrettini, there's a strong fandom coming from northern Poland right now.
I mean, yeah, okay, but it's against Fils,
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Fils is the more exciting player right now than Matteo. But I mean, Matteo. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I think it could be really, really compelling, really tight. If I were to guess, I actually think Fils might be able to back up the win over Fritz. Like, I could see it, especially if he keeps hitting his backhand the way he did today, and if he keeps, getting more returns in play. Like, he is like a little bit more athletic. He's a little bit more kind of. I also worry a little bit about Matteo on hard courts. He sometimes can just get injured in mid-match, or like I also think his strengths don't work as well. It's harder for him to protect the backhand on hard court compared to grass and clay in general. So I kind of like best of 3 hard court Berrettini for me is like 50-50 almost every time. So I could see Fils maybe winning this.
I think it's tricky.
I wonder what the odds are.
Tricky one to call. I wouldn't be surprised if Berrettini was the very, very slight favourite, but I mean, the randomness to the match is obviously
he was a slight favorite, Berrettini. But
yeah, okay.
It's kind of random. Yeah,
provided more, I think, by Fils. So yeah, we'll see in the Japan Open. We've also got I don't know if are these all tomorrow, the round of 16s, or some split over the next 2 days, Damien?
No, it's half and half.
Okay, so I'm guessing though that these matches will be tomorrow in the same half, as in like Navoni, Shelton.
No. Oh. I mean, Navone, Shelton, yes, but then you also have Hurkacz, Draper, and
so they're not doing it half by half.
No, whoever they're playing also. Nakashima Umber is tomorrow as well.
Yeah. Okay. Any of those matches jumping out at you in the next 24 hours anyway, or so, or 48 hours or so, Vanch?
Well, I mean, obviously Nakashima, Umber. We already talked about that. But Draper Hurkacz is an interesting situation, right? Like Draper is in really good form, but Hurkacz has the head-to-head. So
that's intriguing. Did you say Draper Hurkacz is tomorrow, Damien?
Yeah, 4 a.m. for us, John. So unless you have a night shift, then you probably aren't going to watch it. I have been waking up like 5 a.m. the last 2-3 days, so I probably will see a bit of that.
Okay, cool.
Hubi does not have a coach. No, Ghosty. Hubi has not yet signed up Hubi has not yet signed a new coach.
Does Carlos Alcaraz get underway tomorrow?
Yes.
Yes, he does.
Tomorrow is the last day of round 1 in Beijing. So
he plays Pericard.
Keen says that Draper will finish with more slams than Rune, Tsitsipas, and Rublev combined. Well, first of all, no. If anyone out of these 4 players is winning a slam, then it's Holger. And second of all, if we take out Holger out of the equation, they're all going to finish with the same number of slams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they might all finish with
Tsitsipas, Rublev 0. I still want to see Draper for another 12 months before I come to a conclusion. I don't know. Draper,
By the way, Steve Flink is really high on Draper. You know, he says like
Steve Flink.
he could be. Yeah, he says he could be top 5 by the end of next year.
That might be recency bias. That might be the fact that he was obviously at the US Open and stuff. I wouldn't go. Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as top 5. I think if he makes the tour finals in the next 2 years, I think that'll be incredible progress for the Brit. But there's just I don't know to Draper, where there is a feeling of confidence regarding my prediction regarding Tsitsipas and Rublev. Rune is in another category altogether of just, it's also don't know, but with a bit more optimism, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. WTA matches tomorrow to look out for. I guess Sabalenka, does she get her campaign underway tomorrow?
She does, but it's I mean, it's not a particularly interesting match, right?
No. Gauff, Burrell, but don't tell Clara.
Or actually, no, I don't even think she plays tomorrow. I think it's on
the day after.
Yeah, I think it's a Saturday, but it's just
Okay.
not. It's just not an interesting match, coming up, because she plays that Thai girl, Savang.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Yeah, because this is a 96 player draw, is it then?
Yeah, it is.
The round after that, at least, is it could be Lulu Sun or Kruger, so that's a little bit better. Yeah, in terms
but
of
a little bit of a way then for us to go before we potentially get Muchova Sabalenka. But
Osaka Putintseva tomorrow is obviously
Yeah.
one of the highlights.
Yeah.
Navarro against Zhang, almost the rematch with Kinven, but it could be fun if Shuai now suddenly, after breaking that losing run, just decides, I don't know, go
What
for
was it? 24 matches
it.
or something? 24 match streak, right?
24, yes. Also, Fernandez Stearns, I mean, I guess that's good. Frank Parks, I think that's mildly interesting as well. Like, just the sheer contrast of styles, someone who has all the power in the world and someone who has zero power whatsoever. That could be pretty fun.
There are a few things that raise a smile with such certainty than Nerland using the word the words how the hell or who the hell. So he's got one here. Holger cannot even win a 250. How the hell is he going to win a slam? Yesterday,
Well, Holger won a 1000.
I know, but he's talking about obviously the present. Yesterday, but we don't need to worry about whether we agree or disagree. It's just that yesterday it was, who the hell is Conor Nyland? He said, who the hell is? Yeah, there we go. All right, but yes, I think Osaka Putintseva, that does jump out of the page and give us at least one match. There may be more, of course, to look forward to tomorrow. But Osaka Putintseva, Vanch, are you pumped for that one?
I don't know if I'm pumped, but I think Osaka can. I think Osaka can. No. I think Naomi can make a bit of a run this week. Like I wouldn't be surprised because she loves Beijing. 2019. I think she has one of the highest win percentages of anybody there. But honestly, that doesn't mean that much because she was a different player back then. But Putintseva is tricky, like in terms of not the type of opponent that is really going to test Osaka's footwork and like her forehand, big backswing, and like her sharpness on like the return and stuff like that. But I know that she can't quite overwhelm her the same way as some of the other really bigger hitters. And I think like actually a little bit of a slower court will help her maybe. So I think she beats Putintseva. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
I've got a prediction for the headline after the win.
Oh yeah,
third round under new coach Muratoglu.
I've got Muratoglu inspired win. Muratoglu in fact, Osaka might not even make the headline. Muratoglu's through round 3.
Yeah, the miracle maker from France saving Osaka's career.
Yeah. Meanwhile, here's a link to his academy if you want to go and spend €1,000 for a weekend, including €15 beer. Okay. That brings today's show to an end. Do tune in to the live watch along, which I'm about to create for Artifice against Matteo Berrettini. I know James, and for a period of undetermined amount of time, Damien will be on that stream. So you've got that to look forward to at around about 10 a.m. UK time, 11 a.m. In Central European time, and the middle of the night for Vanch.
Yeah.
Is this the worst? Is this worse than Australia, Vanch? This section of the season in terms of watchability?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a little worse than Australia. Because Australia, like I can usually watch the entire day session and like
Yeah.
a fair bit of the night as well. So Australia isn't that bad
Australia-
actually.
I think I've heard Damien says before, Australia for Pacific time is a bit like New York for Europeans,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Exactly.
is there like an 18-hour difference, something like that?
Yeah, 19 hours, but like honestly, like, yeah, I
19.
can watch the
Oh, well,
whole
then
day
it becomes
session,
like 5, doesn't it, in a way?
most
Yeah.
of them. Yeah, so it's like 5. But whereas this is weird. This is like worse than European. I think it's the worst. Yeah, I think Asian swing is the worst for Pacific.
Damien likes it because it's early, it's morning time for him. And you were shaking your head, Damien.
No, I was just kind of like bopping, but yeah, I mean, I do like it actually this year at least, because sometimes I wouldn't be like waking up at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. to watch tennis, but this year for some reason, I mean, that's where my body clock isn't right now. Like I literally wake up at 5:30, so it's perfect for me right now. And also, can Fernley continue to win challengers? I mean, well, he's in the quarterfinals. He's maybe the favorite to win the whole thing now. So, but I don't know. It just sounds like too much of a fairy tale, for someone to be 24-1 after this event. But yeah, I mean, next year in the first half of the season, obviously he'll get to the top 100, maybe even this year, and he will be playing in some 250s. But for now, maybe he'll try like 1 250 probably. That Belgrade, what is it? Belgrade Mets week. That sounds pretty good, for example.
Okay, and on that bombshell, thank you, Vanch. Thank you, Damien. And we'll catch you all soon. For those of you tuning in, we're over 10,000 subscribers, by the way. Don't know if you knew that, Vanch. Damien knew it because I spoke to him about it yesterday. But yeah, we've breached the 10,000.
And we're not 10,001, not 10,005, but rather 10,275.
We smashed it. Thanks largely to Arina Sabalenka's biomechanics coach with that video.
Thanks largely to Jack Edward.
Yeah.
Well, indeed, he
in a way, right? I mean,
yeah, definitely, definitely. He's,
the inspiration.
I mean, maybe Jack Edward more than Arina Sabalenka. We should just give Jack Edward the US Open trophy. Yeah, definitely that interview. I also wanted to make sure it was different. I mean, he spoke to Gavin in the immediate aftermath of the Australian Open win of last year. But definitely, I probably wouldn't have done that interview certainly not as soon as I did, if that makes sense. Maybe if he stays with Arena for another.
I mean, it's very possible you wouldn't have known who the guy is, even. I think, right?
Well, because of interviewing the stats guy, the data analyst guy, Shane Leonage. I think unusually, probably I know Arena's team by name a little bit more than, in fact, probably more than anyone's, with the exception of maybe Rafa. But I mean, who does Rafa have? Mark Lopez. He has Carlos Moya, and then I know his media guy. But yeah. So I have, but I know what you mean. But Jack Edwards certainly can have a slice of the 10K cake. And maybe his slice will be slightly.
Let's just say his reward was the coin toss, and that's it.
Yes, yes, indeed. All right, I am now definitely going to close this, and speak to you all soon. Do hit that like button, do subscribe, and you're going to get a reminder about it right now. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.